Hey everybody, it is Sunday night and I just came in here to feed my office tank. We're doing a very light feeding tonight. I am medicating this tank with medicated food, and I want to make sure when I put the food in, the fish eat it immediately. So I'm kind of keeping them a little bit hungry and doing a very light feeding tonight, and then tomorrow they will fast, and then the following day they'll get their medication again. But that's not what I'm thinking about tonight. I've been standing here looking at my temple plant, my swamp weed, and the top is already starting to branch out and get fairly bushy from what it was when I cut it. You can see the main trunk there has been cut, and I'm already starting to get branching going on. And if you're a regular viewer, you'll know that I took that main trunk and stuck it downstairs in my waterfall tank, not really expecting much of it. Usually when a plant, and I'm assuming this is a flowering annual, and when a flowering annual does its flowering thing, it's usually done for the year. You can't really make it go back to rooting and growing and that sort of vegetative state. But the one I put down in my tank did very quickly, developed roots and sort of switched back over. It's now growing as though it's the underwater growth, the submergent growth, and very shortly it will have grown enough that it's poking up out of the water again, and hopefully we're going to start a whole new cycle of watching it grow up and flower, and down there we'll really get to see how big it actually gets, whereas up here I'm very limited on vertical space. I can only go so tall before I have to start cutting the top of it off. But I'm also looking at these side branches, and they don't get a ton of light. You can see they're not doing really well way out here on the periphery like this. So I got to wondering, obviously it's a resilient plant. It's got a massive root system down here. The roots start almost at the surface of the water and work their way down. So they've actually gone down, grown around, and then come back up. And if you look in there closely, I've got a little forest of roots growing up out of the substrate. It's all wrapped around those rocks and the cave structure in there. That's all pretty much one unit locked together now. Even those two big wads of that Java Windelov in there, all of those roots are entangled, and there's no way I could pull one of those out without disturbing that whole mass. So with a root system like that and a plant as resilient as this, what would happen if I were to really aggressively trim this off? Like, let's say, cut right here. We would be above these two branches. We'd be above this node, and there's not a lot going on this side. It looks like this is dead, but there is a node back here. There's two nodes here. So if I cut it here, or maybe even cut it here above these nodes, and then were to cut these branches right beyond their first node, what would I get? Obviously, I think we're going to get, a fork right here and a fork right there, so that's going to give us 4 more branches. And then if I cut this one over there, that's going to be 2 more. Again, I don't think this node here is going to do anything. But then I'm probably also going to get more branching coming right off of the main trunk if I do that. So we might actually get a little squat, compact bush, and I might be able to get the whole flowering cycle to start over again. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to trim that back aggressively. We're pretty much done with the flowers. I was going to, I'm kind of thinking I might want to wait and let these seeds finish doing their thing and wait until the seed pods develop fully, and then I would have a lot of seeds. But at the same time, do I really need seeds? This stuff is so easy to propagate. All of the branches that I cut off, I can stick them in water and they'll almost immediately generate roots and start growing again. So I don't really think I need to worry about collecting seeds and saving them up. It would be interesting, but let's save that for the waterfall tank if I can really let one grow in its full glory down there and get 5 or 6 feet tall and, fully flower out. Maybe we can get some seeds from that just for the heck of it and see what happens, just for the fun of growing some seeds. It's always fun growing plants from, seeds you've collected from the wild, or even, one of your favorite plants out in the yard that you let it go to seed and collect some seeds and start over again the following spring. So that might be fun to do. But in the meantime, I think this plant is just going to get a butchery type trimming, and we're going to go really aggressive. I'm going to go just above the water line. Like I said, we're going to leave just a couple little branches sticking out. In fact, I'm going to cut it back so hard there's not even going to be any leaves left on it. We're going to have to rely entirely on stored energy for it to start generating new growth. So again, taking a risk here. This is going to be a really aggressive chopping. But at the same time, I think we're done. You know, I think that we're not going to see a whole lot more other than this sort of continual growth up at the top trying to keep going. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and do this. This is not going to be any kind of before and after. Well, actually, you know what? We will make it a before and after. This is only going to take a couple seconds, so I'll just go ahead and put the camera on pause for a moment once I get back here and give you a little broader look at the whole thing. So hang on half a second. All right, it's done. So I think I can probably lower the light, although I really don't know if I want to. That's lighting that tank up really well now that there's no tree over top of it. It looks fantastic. So if I lower the light much more, I think it would be too much light. I think I'd start having issues with algae. I'm probably actually already going to start having issues with algae. Whenever you go through a major change in lighting and you really increase the lighting, you usually have a sort of adjustment period, and it's not unusual to get a little algal explosion or something like that. So let's see what happens. We've got a ton of light in the tank now. I'm really surprised at how brightly lit that is. I really like it like this. As much as I enjoyed seeing that big tree sticking out of the top of the tank, seeing it lit up like this is just awesome. That looks fantastic. So that's what I cut off the top of it. And like I said before, it's got lots and lots of seed pods all over it. So I'm going to trim all the seeds off of it and just leave the leaves on there, no pun intended, and stick it in some water and see if I can't get this one to root in and start developing. In fact, these top two branches that have developed here, I am going to probably cut some of those off and see if I can't get them to propagate and develop. This stuff's pretty easy to grow. So, as usual, I'll put my email down below if you're interested in any aquarium plants like this. I should be able to get a few of these cuttings rooted, and maybe we'll see about that if you're interested in some temple plant. I also have tons of water sprite and Java fern. I've always got water sprite and Java fern if you're interested in that. So check the description below. You'll see my email. Hit me up. I do good prices for lots of plants, etc., etc. So check my email. Send me one. We'll talk. In the meantime, there you go. That's my office tank. Very, very well lit now. I'm really, really liking the way that looks. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss anything else I got coming up. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to this temple plant. I don't know how closely we had a look at it or not, but I did do exactly what I said I was going to do. I gave it 2 nodes on this little side branch here. I've got 2 nodes on this side branch, and these, if you want to call these leaves. So technically we do have a little bit of photosynthesis going on there. And then of course I've got this top section here where I've got these little nodes and a couple little flower or seed pods still sticking out. So I'm probably going to cut those seed pods off. I don't know if we're going to get any new growth out of those nodes though. Not familiar with the way this plant grows, but we're going to find out. So as I was saying, make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss anything or the updates on this or anything else I got coming up. So don't forget, this one is my 20-gallon office tank. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.